Gold prices hit another record high as US President Donald Trump's latest tariffs shake markets. French President Emmanuel Macron unveils a massive $109 billion AI investment to boost France's tech standing. And we explore Turkey and Malaysia's economic relations amid President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's visit. Hello, I'm Taiba Aydin with the latest business and finance news here on TRT World. Gold prices soared to a record high on Tuesday after US President Donald Trump raised tariffs on steel and aluminium imports to a flat 25%. The precious metal reached $2,942.70 per ounce as investors rushed to safe haven assets amid rising fears of a trade war and inflation concerns. This marks gold's 8th record high this year as global economic uncertainty continues to grow. Analysts warn that the risk of a global trade war is pushing markets towards gold and away from US dollar. Meanwhile, oil prices clung to a sharp overnight bounce, rising 0.14% to just under $76 a barrel. And for more, we're joined by Naeem Assam. He's Chief Investment Officer at Zay Capital Markets. Naeem, how significant is this gold price surge and what does it mean for global markets?
Sure, thanks for having me. I think it tells us a number of things. Number one is, of course, the war that the Federal Reserve had against inflation isn't over. And that means inflation is still going to be a massive headache for the monetary policy for makers, especially for the central banks. And of course, on the fiscal side, we will also see a lot of pressure from the governments and how they are going to invest, because everything fuels inflation from that particular aspect. Number two, as you correctly mentioned on top of the hour, is people shifting away from the greenback, i.e. the dollar, their confidence increasingly growing only in the yellow metal, because they believe the shiny metal has got more value than the greenback, which was completely opposite, because people used to have more confidence in the dollar. But now with the threats of tariff and with the tariff war in full throttle, more and more investors are thinking that the best place for them to put the money is, of course, in the yellow metal. And I think these two particular elements, both on the physical side in terms of a demand for gold, and also in terms of the speculation, which is in the stock market in terms of the contracts of future derivatives, we are seeing enormous amount of demand really coming for the yellow metal.
Right, and we're almost at the $3,000 mark. How much further do you see gold rising amid this global uncertainty?
Well, only a few weeks back, or should I say a few months back, the prices actually started to retrace when Donald Trump actually took the presidency. We saw prices moving again, dragging to the downside, dragging towards the level of 2,500. But the overall momentum in terms of the price action was very much a sideway. What do we mean by that? Prices were very much consolidating between the range of 2,500 to the top side of a 2,750 in around that particular mark. And it was very clear to the speculators, to gold investors, that if price or if the shiny metal breaks the level of 2,750, breaks above that 28 level, we are very much moving towards the next and the most important psychological price level of 3,000. And I think it is very likely that the prices are going to touch that, because that is the major target among many investors and traders. However, I do want to caution investors, because in terms of a technical price levels such as the RSI and few other key indicators, they are clearly indicating that this rally has gone far too much and too quick. So which means a retracement is very much likely on the cards.
Right, Naeem Assam, Chief Investment Officer at Zay Capital Markets. Thank you very much for your analysis.
Thank you for having me.
Now, a quick look at some of the other top business stories from around the world. Elon Musk, with a group of investors, has offered $97.4 billion to acquire OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, in order to return to its open source roots. This clashes with CEO Sam Altman's plans to make OpenAI for profit and invest $500 billion in AI through the Stargate project. Altman declined on Musk's social media platform X with "No thank you, but we will buy Twitter for $9.74 billion if you want." Workers in the US are protesting the near closure of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This comes after the Trump administration ordered the agency to stop nearly all its work, effectively shutting it down. The Consumer Protection Agency said Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency had improper access to the Bureau's systems. Chinese carmaker BYD says it will add self-driving technology to most of its cars, including budget models under $10,000. It will integrate software from AI startup DeepSeek, following moves by rivals like Geely and Great Wall Motors. The system includes features like remote parking and highway navigation. BYD's shares rose after the announcement. And China's CATL, the world's largest battery maker, is reportedly planning to file for a $5 billion Hong Kong stock listing this week. It would be one of the biggest deals in Hong Kong in 3 years. The move comes amid rising tensions with the US, with CATL recently named on a US list of military-linked firms. Meanwhile, Chinese companies are seeking overseas funding due to strict domestic regulations. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will join France's President Macron to co-chair the AI Action Summit in Paris on Tuesday. India has stepped up its push for AI innovation at a time when China's DeepSeek has taken the world by storm. Smita Sharma reports from New Delhi on the changes for India's AI startups.
Level AI is a 6-year-old startup in Noida that builds its own AI platforms to enhance customer experience. Its lead machine learning engineer is positive about the country's AI space, but honest about its challenges.
I think one of the biggest things that is there for us is the availability of GPUs. With the new release of DeepSeek that came in recently, even though it was trained on a fraction of what ChatGPT was trained on, it was still $5.5 million, which is a lot of money for any Indian startup. With respect to infrastructures, I don't think we make it to the top 5. I think it will be something that's a combination of Western European nations, the US, China, and then there's a large gap and everybody else. And as of now, we belong to everybody else.
India is the world's third largest startup market, with more than 260 AI deep tech ventures. The government announced a national AI mission in 2023 and has allocated around $100 billion towards innovation and development of indigenous and affordable models. The Finance Ministry, meanwhile, has also asked its officials to not use OpenAI platforms like ChatGPT and DeepSeek, citing security concerns.
Going forward, this data sovereignty issue is going to be a big issue for India. We have to have controls on who owns what and who shares where, and that is a bigger issue which India is really looking at. The rules currently envisage such frameworks which could be a kind of a gatekeeper or which is like a guardrail.
But there's more at stake here. A young economics graduate invited to the Sustainable Development Goals panel at the World Economic Forum in Davos this year believes countries should be using AI as a peace and trust-building tool.
The presentation was about how we can use AI to actually bring people together and solve dysfunction in society. People don't agree on a lot of things these days, but they did agree on the 17 SDGs in 2015, and we can actually use our greatest tool to tap into our greatest strength, which was cooperation.
The vision of startups will need government investments in AI funding and research to ensure that India is not reduced to only being a consumer of technology. The Indian government has announced big plans in its national AI mission, but it needs to put its money where its mouth is. Smita Sharma, TRT World, New Delhi.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is in Malaysia in the first leg of a 3-nation Asia tour. Trade relations between Turkey and Malaysia have grown at an exponential rate over the years. Malaysia is currently Turkey's largest trading partner in Southeast Asia. Let's take a closer look.
In 2014, the two countries removed trade barriers after signing a free trade agreement. It's the first FTA that Turkey concluded with an ASEAN member. In 2022, the agreement was expanded to include e-commerce and services. Through these agreements, the trade volume has increased between the two from $3.5 billion in 2021 to $4.6 billion in 2023. Some of the key Malaysian exports to Turkey include aluminium, palm oil, and coconut oil. And Turkey's main exports to Malaysia include jewelry, hand-woven rugs, and iron blocks. And Malaysia has shown interest in working with Turkey in its defense sector, purchasing 3 Anka-S drones for maritime surveillance in 2023. And last year, they signed a deal with Turkey to build 3 warships for the Malaysian Navy. The warships will be equipped with systems produced by around 50 Turkish defense companies, including Havelsan, Aselsan, and Roketsan. In October last year, Malaysia's Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation visited Turkey to discuss partnerships in the renewable energy sector. The talks involved efforts to increase nuclear energy research and exploration of minerals, key to sustainable development for both countries.
Let's get more on this now with Özden Zeynep Oktav. She's a professor of international relations at the Istanbul Medeniyet University. Now, Turkey and Malaysia aim to increase their trade volume to $10 billion. What key industries do you see contributing to this?
Thank you very much for your question. First of all, this visit showed us openly that Malaysia and Turkey are very close friends to each other, highlighted this friendship very openly. And in 2024, Turkey and Malaysia established their comprehensive strategic partnership. What should we understand from this strategic partnership? Defense industry is very important because in your news also you explained very well that which agreements were made between the two countries. These are basically in defense industry, and the 3 warships, for example, corvette warships will be delivered to Malaysia within the 3 years, and also in the air defense industry. Also, there are a lot of important cooperation agreements. But may I touch another sensitive issue between the two countries? With your permission, I would like to touch this sensitive issue. It is the Palestinian Israeli problem. This visit also aims to exchange ideas about this issue of vital importance after Trump's declarations, very threatening to the Muslim world. As you know, after Malaysia, our President, Mr. Erdogan, will visit Indonesia and Pakistan. These 3 countries also are members of D8 group, and Malaysia also is a member of the Gaza contact group of top leaders. And also the 3 countries are very peaceful and countries and very sensitive about Israeli-Palestinian issue. Therefore, not only in defense industry or improving trade relations, but also in such sensitive Middle East politics, they are very keen to cooperate with each other. And the trade volume, as far as I know, is targeted to be increased to $10 billion. And this will be great for the two countries. And the Malaysian leader also addressed yesterday, it was, I think, a very, very, very touchy and very, very important, praised our president. And this also shows how Malaysia and Turkey very close friends to each other.
Okay, Özden Zeynep Oktav, Professor of International Relations at Istanbul Medeniyet University. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, egg prices have risen to some of their highest levels in the US after a bird flu outbreak has led to supply problems. But overall, consumer prices across the US have also picked up despite the US Fed cutting interest rates. Now, with tariffs set to hit some of the US's key trading partners, analysts fear even more inflation to come. Emre Boz has more.
Some like them sunny side up, others scrambled. However you like them, eggs are not only highly nutritious, they're also a cornerstone ingredient for a range of foods. But many in the United States are now struggling to afford them, as a bird flu outbreak disrupts supply.
I, myself, went to Publix yesterday, and there were no eggs. Eggs are $20, meaning poor people can't buy eggs.
The truth is that eggs are important, so nutritious, and you can hardly buy them because they are so expensive. It is a shame because there are many people who do not have much money, and the only thing they eat is an egg.
But the US is also plagued by a bigger problem, a general rise in prices. Inflation in the country had dropped after peaking at 3.5% last year, but has started to rise again in recent months, reaching 2.9% in December. Throughout last year, the Fed kept interest rates at their highest level in 23 years, between 5.25 and 5.5%, hoping to keep demand-side inflation down by raising the cost of borrowing. But the Fed began cutting rates to 4.5% in December, following fears of even lower domestic spending and economic growth. Despite rising until the third quarter of 2024, the country's economic growth dipped to 2.3% in the fourth quarter. This is as private consumption remained the main driver of the US's growth. Analysts now forecast that prices could rise further after US President Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China.
And on the household front, there's a number of effects. The most obvious one is, say, if I am a US household that imports or that consumes Canadian maple syrup, that maple syrup is going to become more expensive, and that's a direct price increase that households will face. But also, if I buy goods that are domestically produced in the US, but that are produced using inputs from Canada, the price of those goods is also going to go up. So for households, really, there's many different ways you can be exposed, but all these effects lead to higher prices.
If a trade war begins, US producers may see a dip in demand for their goods, and as demand falls, so too will revenues and US growth. Emre Boz, TRT World.
Egypt is aiming to attract 30 million tourists annually by 2030, with new initiatives boosting its global appeal. A key highlight is the Grand Egyptian Museum, which opened partially in 2024 and has already welcomed over 300,000 visitors. A new tourism campaign promotes iconic sites like the pyramids and Valley of Kings, while also expanding religious tourism, eco-adventures and Egypt's growing Mediterranean coastline. At the Eastern Mediterranean International Tourism and Travel Exhibition, we spoke to Egypt's Tourism and Antiquities Minister, Sherif Fatih, about how stronger diplomatic ties with Turkey are shaping the future of tourism.
So what we are currently doing is that we are talking to investors from around the world, local investors and foreign investors, to attract more attention and more investments in the field of hotel rooms, because we need to double them in 5 years. It's an ambitious target, but we have to strive and we have to work on that. We are producing master plans for many areas in Egypt in order to be able to identify investment opportunities and offer it to interested investors. We're also making our cost structure for investors and operators more competitive than it is now in order to also attract more investments. And we have recently introduced financing initiatives. One of them had resulted so far in adding about 8,000 rooms. I mean, I don't know the number exactly because it keeps changing. And we're going to introduce, or working on introducing, another one maybe next month, if the central bank would be able to finance it the way we want. Tourists from 184 countries knew that we have more than the pyramids, and the majority of them are not coming to visit the pyramids. But a next-door country like Turkey didn't know that. So this is one of the things that I learned from, that communication should have been better, and tourism promotion from both sides should have been much better. That's why yesterday, after signing this memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, in Turkey. I'm very optimistic, and we both committed to help each other marketing our countries for each other. So we will facilitate for trade missions and commissions to come to Egypt and promote Turkey and show the Egyptian tourists the potential of Turkey, different parts of Turkey. And we are doing the same in Turkey, promoting Egypt and promoting what we call the unmatched diversity of Egypt. The only thing that we need to do in Turkey especially is to make people aware more of these kind of things, number one. Number two is for the tour operators to make it part of the itinerary of the visit of the tourist itself. Because as you know, governments, we can talk about general concepts, we can promote ideas, promote images and these kind of things, but branding and what's related to that. But the tour operators and the private sector has to take this forward and translate this to sellable packages and also connect flights with touristic trips and all these kind of things.
The world's most expensive Formula One car has been sold for over $50 million in an auction. The vehicle by Mercedes-Benz won glorious victories for the team back in the 50s. Panani Shasta has the details.
The iconic 1954 Mercedes-Benz W196R, driven by Formula One legends like Sterling Moss and Juan Manuel Fangio, it has been sold for a record-breaking $51 million in a Mercedes auction in Stuttgart. It's the first W196R to become available for private ownership, with the streamlined body fitted.
I think it's a wonderful price. It's a huge amount of money for anybody. It's over 50 million euros, and it's, I think, a fair price. And it has incredible history, and it's not often that motor cars make numbers like this.
The bidding rapidly reached $40 million and $5 million increments. The buyer was not immediately named.
Well, it is the rarity of the car. There's only one car in the world available. All the rest is either, the other cars are either in museums or with Mercedes-Benz here in the collection. And this will be the only car available in my lifetime.
It won 9 of 12 races it entered and captured 2 world championships. But its short-lived Formula career ended in 1955, hinting a 3-decade halt to Mercedes' participation in races.
I do think in our lifetime, none such car will be auctioned off. If I would be the owner, I wouldn't auction off because it has a race history. It was driven by the most important drivers, I would say, ever. Lewis, notwithstanding his glory, and it is the most beautiful race car ever built, and never ever will any formula allow you to build such a nice, wonderful, beautiful racing car. So that makes it extremely special.
Sterling Moss, who was knighted for his success in racing, set the fastest lap of the Italian Grand Prix for its final competition at the end of the 1955 season. The car was also driven to victory by 5-time world champion Fangio at the non-championship Buenos Aires Grand Prix in the same season. After the season, Mercedes-Benz retired the car and transferred it to their in-house collection before going on to donate it to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum in 1965. Since then, it had been peacefully resting at the museum, not driven in any vintage events. And now, the iconic Formula One race car will embark on what may be its final journey to head to its new home. Panarni Shasta, TRT World.
Well, that's all your business news for now. Thanks for watching.